Darling, it's the Shy Life podcast.
Yes, but it's a positive thing, Paul. The High Life, the Shy Life.
You won't find a cast of characters like this everywhere.
Hello, Paul.
Delicious.
This particular episode of the Shy Life is a little more abstract than usual.
Oh,
Okay, looks like the hairy guy's ready to record. 3, 2, 1.
Go Shy Yeti.
Oh, I hope he hasn't found out my secret. I think he has.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Shy Life podcast with me, Paul the Shy Yeti. Yes, I'm back and I've got Nick here. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
Here I am again.
Yes, we're back in lockdown and, it feels like we've barely been out of lockdown. It's, I know, you, of course, you've been going to work the whole time, so I must...
I have, yes. There's not been a time when I haven't gone to work. I like it that way. As I say, obviously I've spent more time at home because I haven't been going out so much.
So listeners, yes, as I say, I've got Nick here, and this time we are going to be talking about, I guess it could be summed up by the song Je ne regrette. I've not said that right, but it's sort of about regrets or not having regrets, or looking back at the past, and
which is something I have a talent for doing.
I'm now being sat on my deals. Sit down. We've got to do the theme music. Deals. Sit down.
Maybe he wants to sing.
Maybe you want to sing the theme. Have you got regrets, Jules? I hope you don't regret coming to live with us. No, you can't do. No, Dee doesn't regret living with us. Anyway, listeners, I'll sort this cat out, and we'll run the theme music, and when we come back, we shall talk about regrets or non-regrets. But okay, run that theme music.
It's time for my old buddy, old pal from across the channel, across the pond, Paul Chandler, the Shy Yeti.
He's not that shy. Oh, it's the Shy Life podcast. Yeah.
All I wanted was a pie.
And then I hatched out with an egg. Okay, bring the mic over. He's ready to record.
It's the quiet ones you've got to watch, you know.
Is it metaphorical? Is it deep? Is it deep?
Boy, he's not all that shy, is right.
Blimey, Governor. It's the Shy Life podcast.
If you thought that was bad, just listen to this.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait for it to begin.
It's the Shy Life podcast.
He's positively glowing.
Oh, come on, you sit down, Deals, and then we can start. You can sit on me, you just can't stand in the way of my face. Right. So, listeners, we're back. Dealey is a little bit more sitting down, sort of, aren't you, Deals? So, Nick, where did this idea for this episode come from? Because I think you proposed it.
I think it's a general thing that keeps bobbing into my head, and it's all part of getting old, really. I mean, I've especially when as my wife pointed out, sort of over 50. I'm in the over 50s bunch now, so I should be doing Saga adverts.
Still clinging to my 40s here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think inevitably you do look back on your life and you think it's quite I think the main thing, although it seems petty, I suppose, because I work a lot with the old recordings that we made over the years, whether it be Sutton Park, whether it be my films, and I just think just to kick us off, really. I mean, I wish I'd. I've always liked the idea of having something to film with, a camera of some description, and I got very excited in the early 80s when they were starting to come out as prizes from competitions, and the first time it ever occurred to me that yes, I really have got to get a hold of a video camera for my cousin's wedding, because nobody expected it. Was been 10 years since the anybody had got married in our family, and nobody expected Caroline to get married, and we thought, oh yeah, let's do this. And I kind of thought, I've got to do this, even though I've never used a video camera in my life. So, and instead, if I could sort of pause and kind of re-evaluate that thought, I wish I'd actually gone out and bought a camcorder, had at least had a look at it, rather than renting that. You know, obviously I grew up with a whole ethos of renting tellies mostly, and that was all coming to an end anyway in the late 80s. But if I had actually bought a video camera then, not only would I have got better pictures from therein on, because hired cameras are invariably rather tired and jaded, and you know, I then hired another one a couple of months later to do a video message for Elaine when we first knew Elaine, and I also, whilst I was at it, did bits of Christmas. I did bits of the St Martin's Young Communicants, where I met Danny, and their last Christmas party. And I thought, this is brilliant, but it could have been so much better had I actually owned the bloody thing.
It's funny you mentioned Danny, because if you remember, of course, you might remember the year. But Danny went on Blockbusters, the quiz show.
He did,
and yes. I think I videoed it at the time, just because it was Danny. But I remember he did quite well, and I think he was offered a prize that might have been a holiday, and he behind the scenes, he actually swapped that holiday for a video camera, and I think that was all because by then I had mine. And he saw how much I was using mine, and I found a tape the other day of some footage I'd done at my leaving party, our year's leaving party at school, and you can see Danny in the background with his video camera. So that was the Blockbusters video camera,
but yeah, let's face it. Given the choice of a holiday and a video camera, then for me certainly a video camera would hands down.
Listeners might remember this chat, but Nick probably hasn't heard this yet. But this is all about sort of the digitising thing again. But as you know, you digitised a tape of a chat. Well, one of Elaine's. Because of course you mentioned Elaine just a minute ago, but
indeed, yes.
You digitised one of the tapes that I'd got that she'd sent me, and I did a whole episode, sort of just using the bits that I thought were of kind of interesting little stories and little talking about music, and I was talking on the live show around the time that episode came out, and Toppy was there, and he just heard that episode, and I actually said to him, that was a bit of an experiment. You don't know Elaine. Do you think it worked? And he said, absolutely. She was talking about things that were just interesting, or talking about music, or what she'd done, or little anecdotes about, she thought she'd seen a ghost or whatever, and whatever. He said, it was really interesting, and I don't know her. So, if you've got the right audience, these sorts of these tapes and stuff we're finding, they do have an audience. So,
looping that back even further on itself, the reason we got in touch with Elaine in the first place was somebody else, i.e. Lisa Wardle, had actually sent us a Doctor Who tape, and Elaine's a video message from Elaine, complete with films she was doing at the time, were on that. And we didn't know Elaine, yet when we heard it and saw it, and we thought, ooh, yeah, there was something that appealed to us all, I think. And sure enough, from that, we became friends. So these things do work.
I mean, and I think, obviously, not to pat ourselves on the back, but if there was ever a podcast that allowed for these types of episodes, because I accept that maybe not every listener listens to, maybe they don't like music, or maybe they do like music but they don't like some of the other things we do, or they so when we talk about this is our social history type episodes.
Yes.
So maybe there are some
Oh,
people who
yeah.
love that and some people who don't, and I accept that. But I don't think I could do a show which was just about one subject, because, and I don't really want to do 4 different podcasts about the 4 different subjects, or whatever, however many. I like that we can be whatever we want to be week by week, and we can, you know, I also get to relive my Sutton Park days or do acting on certain episodes. And so when you mentioned doing this episode, I actually said to you, the way that the first thing that I thought about was the sort of, what if we had, you know, not the regrets for me, is more, gosh, if I hadn't have gone down this path, where would I be?
Yes, I mean, it's equally valid.
Yeah, because maybe I that is more of a, I'm sure I do have regrets, but I tend to think more of, gosh, how lucky it is that I met this person, or and it's quite a coincidence that I met this person, or but what were some of the other things that sort of that you sometimes think about, sort of connected with this?
Well, the other big thing, I suppose, because I've worked with the hospital now for nearly 22 years, and I was in retail, as you know, for 14, and I do think, very much looking back, I stayed way too long, and not very. I don't think it was terribly healthy for me to do that. I went back to college, as you know, in '96 to study radio journalism. Rewinding, back in '87 was my last college thing, which was evening classes, drama and theatre arts, which I really enjoyed, and I was actually rather sorry that it came to an end. So I think I could have given myself a boost by going back and doing. I know it was not quite as exciting or interesting, but if I had done word processing, I really sort of embraced computers a bit earlier on, and I got my. If they had our essays then, and actually made a pitch for the hospital admin world about '89. I wouldn't rub out all of my retail days. I think the first few years of Four Boys were really of NSS were really good, because it was terribly exciting starting with when the new store opened. That really was a buzz, and I wouldn't have missed that for the world. But I think by the time of the fire, I think maybe I was thinking, actually, how much do I want to go back?
You should probably explain to the listeners what you mean by the fire.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's probably yes. I worked in the Maltings, which is a shopping sort of precinct in Salisbury. It's
very close to where all the controversy with the poisoning in Salisbury happened.
Very much so. I mean, the most famous poisonings were on the infamous bench. That was actually the Maltings. Yes. It was very short way from where I worked for 10 years, from 86 to 96, in a big. Because
I know this. This story spread worldwide, because around the time it happened, I was on an episode of Lottsville when they were still together, and they knew that I had connections with Salisbury, or certainly being their UK correspondent, so they'll know what we mean by the poisonings. But
in 2018, that was where I worked for 10 years between 86 and 96 was the very epicenter of where the Novichok poisonings were. I mean, it's almost kind of like cursed a bit, because in 1989, the summer of '89, there was I lived next door, but I worked next door, but won a fruit and veg shop, whose generator overheated and caused a fire, and it wiped out a large portion of the Maltings. They rebuilt it, and mercifully no one was killed, but it did do immense damage. There was a fire, and our place got heavily burnt. But the thing is, the top of our place got heavily burnt. the shot was fine, but all the damage, I don't mean this derogatory, but all the damage was actually done by the firemen, dosing everything down, desperately trying to make it fireproof. And we had to strip it out and start all over again because of the damage done by the firemen. I think and I've actually the other thing is I spent the whole day taping the local newscasts, and it's really weird watching your place of work burn on telly. But it's quite therapeutic, actually. My boss at the time, he had his faults, but he actually did make sure we were all looked after.
I can sort of compare, not seeing my place of work on fire, but I do often see my place of work turn up on episodes of Spooks or in Italian 70s like giallo movies, or goodness knows I've seen it on lots of different TV programmes, either inside, outside, from a distance. That's quite sort of disconcerting as well. But seeing it burn would be a bit different.
So I think that was a turning point, really. I think I was starting to get a bit jaded with it. I think when you start out with something that's really exciting and you've got a great team and everything, you even when people start disappearing and it doesn't, and I was posted off to the smaller, crummier branch part time because they couldn't afford it. That slowly but surely the utopian dream started fading, and I'm not a very good person to deal with this kind of thing, because I think that at the back of my mind there was always there was a loyalty because I was working, but at the back of my mind there was always a sort of hope that the glory days would come back, and they never did, of course. But I should have manned up a little bit and actually gone for office work, which I think suits me down to the ground. Obviously, I could say, I should have made a go of writing. I did make a go of writing, but rejects sort of drive you down into the ground. And I took an amateur path, which has been very fruitful. And, but I think in terms of professional hard cash, getting the money in, I could have moved my life on a little bit faster had I given up, had I made a concerted effort to actually get into office work. Because I know I enjoyed it straight off, and I still enjoy it. And I would have loved to have, because we've got the other thing in Salisbury is there used to be two hospitals. One I work in now, which is up in the country, just on the edge of the country, and there was a second one, an infirmary, an old Victorian infirmary, which was in the slap bang in the middle of town, and it's a lovely old building, the old infirmary, every old filmy war film you can imagine, and I would love to, with hindsight, I would have loved to have actually had a crack at working in there, because it's supposed to be haunted as well, it would have been a lot of fun. I wish I'd done that now.
I think,
but you get funny with. I get very loyal to people. I don't really want to kind of let them down.
I've had the same thing.
That was silly.
I've had the same thing where I work. Where I think when I first started where I work now, after about 2 or 3 years, I thought, I suppose I'm supposed to be moving on now, because that was my experience up until then. Is that I'd had jobs for 2 or 3 years, or I'd been on contracts, and I did try and look for things, but it was sort of made clear by my boss that she didn't really want me to go, and I liked her, and I still like her, but she's not my boss anymore. But maybe when she left, I really should have made a move, but unfortunately that was around the time my health problems started, so then it became I'm glad to be somewhere that I've got some reputation in, that hasn't happened. And I think by staying in the same job for a long time, it then made me think about around the same time, sort of the self-publishing thing started, and I sort of thought, well, actually, if I moved to another job, I don't think I'd want to be moving up to the next grade. And I don't want a job that's so all sort of all intensive that I don't have time for the things I really enjoy doing outside of work. So I
suppose also, I mean, looking at it another way, I actually, I suppose, because when I left the college second time around in the 90s, I was doing overtime at Index, the catalogue shop in the centre of Salisbury, and they were offering me so much overtime, I wasn't really pulling my finger out to look for another job. And but at Christmas they announced that they had overspent on the budget, and although I still had a Saturday job there, they couldn't offer me anything out during the week, and that gave me the kick up the rear end I needed to look for a full-time job. And this time I actually did look completely away from retail and went for office work. And even though I was signed up to 3 agencies, one of which was run by an old flame of mine, they still didn't get me anything. I actually got it off my own back, and it worked a treat. Also, no one turned up to the interview, which always helps.
Didn't you do some sort of security guard thing, like a night? Was it a night thing when you were at college, or?
That's right. Yeah. It was, funnily enough, that was the only job I ever got, only professional job I ever got on the back of my films. Because Renata, who was one of the people who worked with us on Run Faster Than the World, which was one of my films in '96, she knew I was going back to college and was looking for part-time work. And she said, my husband runs a security firm. And I thought, aren't security blokes like ex-army and built like shit houses? And I said, no, most of them, aren't. And I was actually, as I was, one of the places, of course, that they were guarding was the college. So I had to have rigorous security checks to be a student and a security guard, which finally came through in the January. And yes, during '97, it was only '97, but I did periodic work for, and it was crazy. It was Rent-A-Kill, the people more famous for killing out the rodents, and I never forget the training offices were just by Meridian Studios, and we have our lunch in the Meridian Canteen Studios, and they said, "Oh yeah, we were second after Group 4," and I thought Group 4 is the one that's famous for being incompetent. That doesn't fill you in. Sure, you got the chart the right way up, but that was fun. But you got treated like dirt by a lot of not so much by your own people, but by the people you were being employed by, and there was an awful lot of footwork involved in looking after the college. Yet, when I went to guard a DHSS place, I was doing next to nothing for more money, which was daft. But it was considered danger money. Heaven alone knows why. I suppose for the information, but I don't regret that. But I certainly couldn't have carried on doing that. But yeah, that was off. Renata got me that, but there was one guy I was told to look after because he was a student and he got absolutely wrecked one afternoon, and we came back to college, completely sozzled, and he just wasn't conscious or anything. And I said, I was ordered to kind of look after him, make sure he could walk in a straight line, then send him home. And I had to record what his name was and everything. And sure enough, I sobered him up eventually. I said, well, you're not going home until you walk to a straight line. Walk to a straight line. There you are, guys. Off you go, son. And 2 weeks later, I was actually on duty with him. They'd hired him as obviously nobody read my log whatsoever, yes, I actually worked with him for a time. It was very embarrassing, but yeah, I was a nice little diversion, but a lonely job, very unsociable.
The only job that I did before I was a professional librarian was being a paperboy in our village, and that involved the daily papers and also the free papers like Avon Advertiser.
Avon Advertiser,
like that. Obviously, in the weekly ones like the Salisbury Journal, and that was all around that. Some of it you could do by foot, and obviously at weekends that became much more of a chore because they were so heavy. Even back in the late 80s, early 90s, they were massive at the weekends. But then I used to have to go and cycle up to the the other part of my parents' village was on the main road, so I had to sort of do that by bike. But I mean, the good thing was I used to get to listen to lots of music, probably audio messages from Elaine and various different people as well.
And RPS actually,
Yes.
there's a audio letter you did for RPS, I think on the second issue, where you talk about listening to it on your paper route.
Yeah.
That was about would have been 89.
I wasn't very good at getting up. I mean, I used to make it a bit easier. I used to get changed because obviously, if I was going to school, then I couldn't go out in my school uniform, so I'd have to be wearing something. So I used to get changed into like jeans and a t-shirt and stuff, go to bed. And then, so at least when I got up, all I had to do was get out of the bed, go down and get the papers. I didn't have to then sort of get dressed in half asleep or anything. So, but I mean, it was quite particularly in the winter, it wasn't a fun thing to be doing, and I wasn't that good at weekends at getting up quite as early as the traditional paperboy would be expected to. I mean, not that I was delivering it at 11 o'clock or anything, but I do remember my most proudest moment as being a paperboy, other than getting to meet some of the locals, because our village is quite interesting. There's quite a different range of yes, Dealey, yes, you've never been to the village, you don't know. Let me explain. There's quite a range of perhaps farming people, and then there's sort of people in the middle, and then there's quite a few quite well-off houses in the village. And I used to enjoy when I used to have to go, because I used to have to go around and collect the money. I think that was probably like once a week, once a month. Go and collect the money, and you'd be quite nice. Some of the people it'd be really nice to sort of catch up with and chat to. And at Christmas, it was always the most well off that you didn't get a Christmas tip from, and the poor old grandmas who were sort of trying to give you 10 quid or whatever it was at the time, and they were always the more interesting people to talk to as well. But my most proudest moment was, I think at school we had done Scientology, or we talked about Scientology, not obviously in a positive pro way or anything, but at least I knew what Scientology was, and knew that it was not to be trusted, and I knew about Dianetics, the book, and this was around the time when Scientology has never really gotten a hold. It's got like very few followers in the UK, but they were trying to do a push of publicity, and they were sending around these Dianetics flyers with the free paper. And so when those arrived, I was kind of like, no, I know what this is, this Dianetics book. I know what this is. I'm not taking this round. I'm not being responsible for the whole village finding out about this book. And
becoming Scientologists, all of them.
Well, one would hope that nobody in the village would have turned, but I wasn't going to be the one to be taking it around, and I didn't want to take money because I think you only got a very small amount of money for each flyer you delivered. But I told my mum, and she rang the paper guy and said he's not going to deliver that we don't agree with that. And they said, fine, you won't get paid for it. And I was like, fine. I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't going to get paid for delivering the paper. I just wasn't going to get the 20 pence or whatever it was I would have got for sticking that in all of the papers.
It's a bit odd that a paper round people, or a news agent would actually. I mean, did they really understand what?
No, I doubt they did, because I think only because I had been, because it just looked like an innocent book. An advert for a Dianetics book, but I knew that was a slippery slope into Scientology, so I wasn't going to be the person to be giving them any help whatsoever. So I suppose I was like sort of, I don't know, 17 or 18 by then. It was probably just before I went to university, but so that was the only job I did other than working in libraries. And going back to what I was saying about not regrets but wondering where you'd be if you hadn't followed a particular path, because I went to library school, that hadn't been the plan, and looking back you think, well, why was that at least not something I'd thought about? Because my mum was a librarian, my uncle and aunt are librarians. I'm a bookie type person, and you do tend to think, well, when you do that thing where they try and push you down certain routes at school, why when I was saying what I was interested in, why did they, when you were considering your options or whatever they called it, why was I not told that trying to do a course in media studies when that was a new subject was not that it doesn't always lead to anything. That sort of came later, when people sort of did these degrees and then found that they didn't necessarily help get them a job. It might be a stepping stone where I've got a degree, now maybe I can do an MA in a subject that might lead me into a particular field, but not so much that. It was more because it was a new subject. I would have had to have had 3 A's at A-level, which that was never going to happen doing the courses that I found myself doing for A-level. And I kind of wish that somebody had said to me, well, what about something like library studies? Or and it was only because I didn't get the results that I was being offered places for courses that I was good at English and English literature, but I didn't want to do that for a degree. And also because I wasn't predicted like A's in my other 2 subjects. I was being offered like, half a course in media studies here, but also doing history as well. So it was like 2 split subjects, and I was doing history for A-level, but mainly because the subjects at the grammar school were quite traditional, and had I gone to the college, then I probably could have done things like film studies or things that I would have been better at. But there was a bit of a kudos to being, my parents wanted me to be at the grammar school, so didn't really have that option. And I also, I did have Harry and Robin there, who were very close friends, and it was nice to know that you were going to have them around for another couple of years, and a few other people that I liked. But so it's a bit like you say, I suppose I could have caused if I'd been a rebellious teen, I could have kicked up a fuss and said I want to go to the college, but that's not really me. And so really the fact that I didn't get the grades I wanted when I came to doing clearing, when you look and you see what courses are sort of available with the grades you've got, library studies came up as an option, and of course that went straight into what deals? No, you're not a librarian, you didn't go to university, but we don't think any the less of you. No, you don't have.
I do think. I mean, obviously, I know the grammar school that you went to. Obviously, I'm not. I don't think I was ever going to be grammar school material. I think to think, I wish I'd gone to grammar school. I don't particularly wish I'd gone to grammar school because I wasn't academically inclined. I think I wish I'd gone to St Joseph's, which was A, more religious, and B, mixed. I wish I'd gone to that in terms of perhaps even more than the religious side. Social integration. I think it would have improved my people skills enormously. I definitely. I mean, had we been still living it where we were in the most of the 70s, the beaches, I would have been going to St Martin's, which I've been going to now for quite some time, because I returned there, and we would have been considered Anglo-Catholic, and therefore, I could have wangled it, but that so there was so much in Highbury that I kind of, they were just pointless. It wasn't anything to do with my life at all. So maybe I just wasn't a school person. I think.
Yeah.
I considered it an institution like the army or prison.
I think Deals seems to have a lot of regrets. Deals, what are your regrets? I think some of the things, thinking about it, as I've said before, talking about these things. Sorry, listeners, we're using you as therapy, but talking about these subjects.
You are our nutty psychiatrist.
Yeah, talking about these subjects, you start to think of things you hadn't thought about before. But then that's why they're good sort of starting points. But some of the regrets to do with schools, I had no control over that. I suppose, I'm saying that, goodness, if I hadn't have not got the grades I wanted to do, what would I have done? What sort of employment would I have got headed towards? Because I never, the jobs that I want are all pie in the sky, working in the BBC archives or.
That's certainly one I would have liked to have done.
Where you always kind of presumed you'd be the one to find the missing episodes of so-and-so that would be tucked in the wrong box or whatever. Being a writer, obviously, that doesn't just happen. And it often takes a very long time to be a writer who is actually given their own projects where they get to decide what the projects are, which is, and I think I was always more happy with, okay, well, I, rather than do all the hard work, I'd rather do Sutton Park and have my own TV series today, thank you. The same with self-publishing.
I would still, if there was a reasonable independent doorway, I still haven't. I still harbour the desire to do something professionally. If the door was there.
If I'd have been looking for a career path other than libraries, I think I probably would have gone down a retail path and tried to work in a bookshop, whether it be a Blackwell's type one or whether it be a more Paperback Parade, smaller independent bookshop. I mean, I think that's where my heart would be, but those jobs would probably be easier to go and work at a big chain than it would be to find a little independent bookshop. But there was a point when my parents almost considered, I'm sure there was a point where my dad, we could have a bookshop and Mum could run it and then I could have worked there with, I think probably a lot of these paths depended on, if I'd have not left Salisbury, then there might have been a point where that would have been an option. But these things were all pie in the sky, really. I mean, when it comes to schools, the schools that I would regret would have been schools I had no control over, and only really the one that because I went to a lovely little primary school where there was only 60 pupils, and it was. Creativity was quite encouraged, and we used to go on nature walks, and although we were close to Salisbury, we were out in the village, so it was, we got to go on wood walks, and there was always little plays, and often we did a play about which listeners may remember. It took us all the way back, and we some of the regulars got to see me on the stage. We did a play in about 1984 about
I remember digitalising.
Joshua Scamp, which is a local legend around that area of Salisbury or outskirts of Salisbury, about a gypsy who took the blame for some horse theft and got hung for something that his son-in-law had done, and it was a whole legend. And we wrote songs and we turned it into a play, and it was all done by the students. And considering that most of us were only 10 or 11 at the time, I don't remember there being that. I mean, the teachers were there to help and advise, but I think a lot of it came from the kids, and we did it at something like Coombe Bissett Hall or whatever, and there was quite a lot of positive things about that school. The only negative things I have about that is that when I think I hadn't passed 11 plus, it was one of those points where there was a school. If you passed 11 plus, you were going to go to the grammar school. If you weren't, then a lot of the kids from that school went to a secondary school down in Downton, which I think some of my friends who didn't pass were going to go there, but I found out that I wasn't going to be going there because my parents wanted me to go to do my 13 plus and have another go to try and go to the grammar school. And I suppose at that age, it made some of my friends turn against me. Even I guess they didn't know how to deal with it was like, well, somebody must be to blame. It must be you who's to blame. And I guess we're only kids.
It is tricky. Yeah, I mean, it is tricky when you're kids that when you go separate ways. I mean, I was convinced that my friend Mark Slade would flunk the 11 plus because he although he was in many ways a bit of a boffin when it comes to electronics and things like that, he was very much in a world of his own, and I was actually convinced he was going to follow me to Highbury, but he didn't. He went to Bishop's, and I was actually really miffed. I had no right to be miffed. I should have been pleased for him, but I really was quite. It did put a rift between us, and I think that was that a lot of that had to it was down to me. I mean, I was that disappointed that he wasn't. So it's easily done. I mean, similarly, I was convinced that Joe Bunsell was going to go to Bishop's, and he didn't. He followed me to Highbury. In actual fact, I mean, again, filling the glass half full here, but in actual fact, had he not, of course, we had our series together, the Magnet Editor, which he sort of helped take over after I went to Highbury. But had he not gone to Highbury, those years between him going to Highbury and me leaving, we would have had a hell of a job trying to pull the series together, because we had the additional thing of being able to see each other at school and talk about ideas and discuss, which was a total luxury, which I hadn't anticipated. And I
guess I have a similar thing with my friend Other Paul, in that the primary school I went to was so small that the third and fourth years were in the same class, so it felt like you were all in the same class, even though it was 2 years. So we were all sort of known as being chatterboxes, and when I left, the headmistress was quite. I mean, he remembers this, and he's a lot more. I don't know whether it's partly his parents also had disagreements with the headmistress, so it kind of exaggerated what he, perhaps hearing from your parents, I don't like this person, and also some things that he experienced probably exacerbated it even more. That whereas I didn't really have any bad experience with his headmistress, but he says that she said to him, when I left, I don't know why you're bothering talking to him, because he'll be leaving in a few weeks and you'll never see him again. And it makes you...
That's a bit brutal.
It makes you wonder how much of that made him determined. So, I mean, I was quite up for keeping in contact, and I think perhaps there was part of that made him think, well, because for many years, when she was still headmistress, we used to go to the Cuckoo Fair, and she had a that she would her school. I think she might even been at a different school, but for years we used to always go to the Cuckoo Fair, and he would always come with me, and I think a lot of it was to do so we could walk past her stall and go, hello, still friends, by the way. And
there was there was a huge. Well, the other thing that was very much part of school life because they would get very funny if you made friends with kids that were younger than you. I found this because a lot of my contemporaries were alpha male kind of football and everything, and I just didn't gel with them. They wouldn't level with me, I wouldn't level with them, but the likes of the younger kids, so we'd only taking a couple of years, would be interested in the sci-fi concepts, interested sci-fi ideas, adventure, something imaginative. That games, Doctor Who, the Magnet Editor, all the and they would. I would kind of introduce them to things, and I came in for a lot of flack for that because there's he's rather immature. I'm not immature. I'm just discerning about who I spend my time with. And if
probably some of us thought that kicking a ball around wasn't exactly mature.
No, exactly. The thing is, if maturity means I have to get involved in a sport that I have absolutely no interest, and even at 52 I still have absolutely no interest in, and to talk with a bunch of morons who just were just they just want on my wavelength, and I'd like to think, I don't know, but I'd like to think schooling's moved on a little bit since then, and they're a little bit more tolerant of different interests and personalities. But it was a lot. I came in for a lot of stick for that.
Other Paul and I used to write letters to one another, and when we got like a year or two older, we started to sort of like meet up on a Saturday and go to Reeves the Baker's and have a coffee and a sausage roll for our lunch, and or Danish pastry or something. Sitting down like big boys. I'm not just taking a takeaway. We go and have the table service with our pocket money, so we bridged the gap where we could have drifted. We kept in touch, but then I did. I mean, I don't know whether that was probably the first friendship I had where it could have drifted, but we both sort of fought for keeping in touch. So I think by the time I came to university, it would never even occur to me to have let friendships drift.
This is what makes you a very, very good friend. You always put, as long as you always put the effort into. Not just with me, but everybody, But
had I been the sort of person where I'd gone into Hall's residence, and there's some people who are just natural friend makers, and they know everybody, and I could see those sorts of people. If I'd been like that, it would be difficult to then, if you had 50 friends at university, then to keep up with friends from back home, it might have been a bit more sort of okay. When I'm back home, I'll see them, but I was going to. I travelled back about once a month to my parents, and presumably saw you if I was back for a weekend or.
That's right.
And then obviously holidays, and there were periods where I was actually on placement back in Salisbury. So, but I still think perhaps that early experience with Paul was sort of set the sort of this is the what this is how friendships are for me.
That's right. And I although I got back in touch with Harry during through yourself, I had to sort of say goodbye to him when we left the beaches in 1978. He was a lot younger then. He wasn't like a fully coming out to play because he was only 4 at the time, and. But there was people like Helen Smith and Neil Courtney who I would see every day, and simply because I moved one part of the city to another, I didn't really play with them anymore. I went back. Malcolm Sturgis, who worked with Danny and myself in the St Martin's Choir, behind the scenes, he from 79 to 81, he enabled me one day in a summer to actually go back to the beaches and use his house as a base and team up with my friends. It was semi-successful. Harry was older then, and yes, I saw a bit more of him. And I think Neil was knocking around at one point, but I never got to see Helen. So there was always, maybe I was just too timid to sort of, but I don't know. It was nice to see everybody, and it was.
I mean, we're coming to the end in the next 5-10 minutes because I'm running out of time. But I mean, I think we'll probably have to talk about further regrets or further things in another episode, because I think there's lots of different. We've only been talking about our early life, but before we finish, I just wanted to add about the school I went to for those 2 years, the private school, which was, I didn't board. I was. It's in the centre of Salisbury, and I mean, there were still good things that came from that, because although my mum would usually pick me up, because my school finished later than my brother's school, but she'd pick me up some nights. Other nights I'd be expected to walk back to my dad's office, and it was that point when I used to walk past Jim Smith's bookshop and started to go in there. So that was a sort of a positive thing. But the actual school itself, it's debatable. I did have some friends. None of them have really been long-term friends. Or they're people like you've got on Facebook and stuff, but they're not people that if I said their names you'd probably recognise them. And there are one or two that I would have liked to get in contact with who have just totally gone off the radar. I've never been able to track them down. But and I was in two different classrooms, one in the 5th year, one in the 6th year. I mean, I think I might have said to you before, I was lucky that I've never entered, other than when I started at primary school, I've never entered a school at the lowest year. I've come in some way through, so I've never had that experience of being the youngest person.
I've done that once. And I must admit, just talking of schools, this is a bit of a seesaw thing, because it was a good thing, bad thing. In 1978, when we left the beaches, which was the cul-de-sac where Harry lived and I lived, we moved to Harnham. Now, I came to, at the time, it was an exciting adventure, and I didn't mind. Although I very soon started to miss the house, the people, it was a checklist of things I was homesick about. But I have to say, history was kinder to the school. I came in. I started Harnham Juniors on my 10th birthday. Now I didn't actually enjoy going in as the in the 3rd year, because there was just a whole lot. I had to start from the bottom up with the whole lot of friends midway through a term, and but I came to. It's probably the only school I actually came to love and to really badly miss when I left it. And the Harnham Juniors. So the school was better, but I missed the home. So if you had the school from one and the home from another, that would have been ideal.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling Harry did. I have a feeling he did go to Harnham at one point.
It does make,
but there was a bullying problem with St Martin's Juniors.
It does make me wonder that because when I went into the grammar school, eventually I was put in a particular form, and I can't remember now if that was to do with where my name fell in the alphabet. I mean, my other friends were Archer, Green, Fulton, all quite sort of at the early part of so that might have been the reason I was in their class. Luckily I didn't know Harry at that stage or Robin, but I knew a guy called Mark who I'd gone to school with when I was really, really small. So I had somebody who was on my side, and so I don't know, if I hadn't have been in that class, would I have not met the people who became my friends for those 5 years? Or, I mean, I would have met them, but would they have been my friends, or would I have percolated somehow to them? I mean, I met Danny independently without knowing you, just because I met him because I was in a class with somebody who was in the same form as him, and we had like a what do you call it? A quiz, for want of a better word. And I'd got one right about Doctor Who, and we went. And I was friends with this guy called Sean, who was in the same class as Danny. And I went to lunch, and I was talking, and we sort of say, "Oh, I got this one about Doctor Who," and then Danny was sitting on the same table, and piped up, "Oh, you like Doctor Who?" And that's how we. But otherwise, I didn't really know Danny.
Because we met him independently and met through him eventually. But so I met him. He was at the St Martin's Young Communicants, which I was part of.
It's all very coincidental. A lot of these things.
Yeah, I mean, it was the around about Christmas '87 when he just joined Smike. He was the junior member, as it were, but he had just joined Smike, and we would inevitably have a party. At my place. I
met him right at the end of December '87.
Yeah, same as.
Yeah.
We must have met him pretty well bang on exactly the same time, because he was at the party, and I in those days I used to regularly trot out photographs to bore people and everything, and there was a picture from the 1986 Doctor Who local group Doctor Who display, which was in the library, and I showed it. He sort of caught sight of this and said, Doctor Who display." And I think, "Yeah, I'm a Doctor Who fan." And at the time, I was starting to get the tapes, the audio tapes of out of time stories, particularly Tom Baker. And I think we've said this before. It sounds terribly suspect now, but there was me taking this 14. Was he 14? A 14-year-old boy up to my bedroom, showing him my tapes, and because he was part of Smike, and I was kind of like one of the, one might broadly say one of the elders of Smike. Then, one thought nothing of it, and because we suddenly the years fell away, the 5 years fell away, and we were just fellow fans.
I think your connection with the church. Even though I wasn't religious, but my dad was, I think the fact that he knew you were a good churchgoer, the fact that you were 5 years older than me, it didn't prevent us being friends, because that was like a badge of he's going to be okay, which worked in my favour.
Also, going back to your defiance of the generation, well, not generation, year kind of thing that is so bothered our schoolmasters. I was frowned at for hanging out with boys that were 1 or 2 years younger than me, 3 maybe, and of course there I was hanging out
even younger.
10 years later, hanging out with boys that were 5 years younger.
It's always been a good thing having you as a slightly old, because I always mark it. I think, well, if Nick's 50, I'm still got another 5 years to go.
But what also, yes, that's the thing is also it put it in perspective, as at the same time I was becoming friendly with Linda King. Another Doctor Who fan who subsequently was 10 years older than me, and who videoed a lot of the Tom Baker adventures that I so idolised, and I was getting stories off her. So I thought, this is the natural chain. She's helping me out as a younger fan. I'm helping you guys out as younger fans.
I mean, we both had,
and at the same time, we formed a very strong friendship.
And we had friends at Paperback Parade who were, my friend Bernie, our friend Bernie. She's the same age as my mum. So, slightly older than my mum, more like my dad's age, and
of course my mum got to know all these because I used to go into Paperback Parade with mum. I think on a Saturday, even though I'd go independently if she was busy or something, we'd still hang out together, even when I was allowed to go into town on my own. And she would talk to the Paperback Parade women as well. She'd get to know Bernie and Caroline, who I know from work now, and it was terrific. But yeah, so we always had these. I've always sort of I've just gone where the company's been, really. Whether they're much younger or much older, you just bond with them. And certainly with Danny, yes, because I started, even before I got a video recorder, I started getting the videos, and Danny had a video recorder. So we used to, after church, I used to go to his house, and we used to watch bits and bobs. Although usually he was pulled out and told dinner was ready and is inconvenient. But so we started these Sunday afternoon things, meeting up and watching stuff. And when school, I can't believe I'm saying this because kind of, even though it's part of our history, it's actually what it would be terribly frowned upon now, because I was pushing 20 when I used to hang out with you guys.
Yeah, but then if you look at it now, 20 is a kid to me. If you hear someone's 20, you think, God, they're just, it's only a year on from teenagers, and teenagers,
That's right.
don't really, you could be married as a teenager, but you don't realistically.
Indeed, I was.
Don't really think of teenagers.
Married for 2 years when she was that
really
age.
think of a teenager as being an adult. They may be a teenager might be insulted to hear that, but realistically, when you look back as an older person, you don't really. We are going to have to go. I think I'm going to leave my story on a cliffhanger because I wanted to say more about that school that I went to for 2 years, because I think, although you could say it was regret, I think I learnt a lot of life lessons and how to get by, and probably how to be dishonest to get by for my own survival. Nothing breaking the law, or not stealing or anything, but sort of telling fibs to get you out of doing something you didn't want to do, and I got away with it for the whole time. I never got caught out or found out. And that was that school. That's going from a really comfortable school to being in a situation where you're really sort of put. And I was, but I mean, as far as lessons were concerned, I didn't skive anything that was important. It was basically, we're talking about skiving games and the ways I found to do that. The foolproof way I found to do that, but I think I shall save that for next time.
Say what is Paul's massive deception? I will say, for my own part, the only time I ever played Churt was at the disappointingly senior age of 29. When I was either 29 or 28. I was at college, and I knew hardly anyone else turned up to the class anyway. My friend L.J. Moraes was doing a show about racial differences, and I liked their shows, and I actually bunked off and watched that, but it was for artistic reasons. So,
and of course I did sort of do truant, and you were to blame for that. No, you weren't to blame for that. I would have done.
Yes, I was.
But we've talked about that before. But
I would have been in deep water these days.
It never felt like you were leading.
It's more draconian age.
It didn't feel like you were. You certainly weren't forcing me to do something I didn't want to do, or you didn't feel like. I think it felt like a very even adult sort of like, I don't need to be in school this afternoon. Let's go to Bournemouth and do something.
Worryingly, I didn't think twice about it. You were a fellow Doctor Who fan. We got on, and you liked vinyl and old records, and there was Wonderworld. The comic shop was there in those days, and we thought nothing of it. Really, did we?
Our rebellions might have been small or different to other people's rebellions, but we still had some rebellions, and we'll tell you more about it next time.
Yeah. I mean, some of the parties I have just smike. The jaw hits the floor. I thought nothing of getting these teenagers completely sozzled.
I do often think, when I think about
jaw-droppingly irresponsible.
When I think about certain friends I had or I met in the noughties or the teens, and I hear them talking about when they were young, I think, would we have been friends then? Because would you have been too rebellious for the 80s or 90s me? Would I have kept away from you because I saw you doing that. I wasn't very good at. I didn't have any friends who smoked, so I felt I had to smoke. I think I would have avoided those people. So I do wonder sometimes the time is right for friendships at different points in
I
your
think
life.
so. And the time is right for relationships as well. I mean, Ali and I probably wouldn't have got on if we had met when we were younger. Ali would have been too attitudey, and I would have been too prissy. You know, I think, you know, I don't think it would have worked in the old days.
I mean, there were times that I can think of where I was. People said things to me like being at the leaving party with Harry, and I know he wanted to go off with all of our peers, and I think I've never been in a pub. I don't know what you do in a pub. I would rather just be Harry, Robin, and I with a few cans of Coke, sitting in the park, just chatting between us. I didn't want to be in a bit, and that they went. I don't think Robin probably cared either way, and that they came with me to the park. So, but you know, I remember one or two times. There was a time when we were out, and we met somebody. You and I. And we were like invited back to their. So I was kind of like nervous, thinking, "Oh gosh, what are we getting into?"
Well, actually, I was because the same person I'd been at studio with, and we was due to go to she was going to give me a lift to a party. We stopped off at her place, and she was changing, and I thought, where is this going to go?
Yeah.
And part of me thought, actually, let's stay. And so in actual fact, that was one time where I was thinking, you know, I think I was single at the time, and I was thinking, you know, actually, I would have quite liked to see where it would have gone.
I think I was single on that occasion, but I don't think I was out to you. So I don't think you at that point. So I don't think. I
think someone was Harry. Yeah, it was definitely you, me, and Harry.
Yeah.
I think at the pub, or was it? It might have been Callum.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I remember thinking.
But I remember the lady very well. But I would have been interested, in, you know, from a if I'd been on my own, I would have seen where it had gone.
Yeah.
You know, I would have been interested.
So so anyway, listeners, as you can, we're all kinds of revelations coming up on part 2 of this. So not regrets of different shapes and sizes, and what ifs, and what could have been if things hadn't gone one way. So,
or even regrets of regrets. You know, I regretted not doing that and regretted it.
Exactly. Well, that's a bit like some of the things I've said. Yeah, goodness knows what would happen if I hadn't have taken this course. And you know, there were more things I could say, but we'll save them. But, I mean, one of them. When I moved to Surrey, and I went you came with me when I had my interview at Sandhurst.
That's right, I remember that very well.
And I wasn't that keen about it because it was only a very. It was
Guildford Cathedral.
It was kind of a short contract, and I was really looking for something permanent. And also, it came up when. You were supposed to be over for the week. I was having a week off, and then suddenly I have an interview, and changing of plans. I nearly didn't go, and if I hadn't, I might not be here now because I might not have moved to Surrey. So little tiny changes in history can really make big changes to life. But we'll
space-time continuum.
Anyway, next time. Anyway, Nick, thank you very much. And
yes, we'll have to stop there because we literally go on forever.
Yeah, we'll have another chat next time. But, anyway, thank you very much for sharing your memories and your thoughts, and we will speak to you again soon.
Thank you. Yes, we will indeed.
Bye for now.
Goodbye.
Hello listener. It's me, Cuthbert the Robot, here to impart a quick message. Before this episode ends, we have a short recording to share with you between Paul, Nick and his wife, Ali, which was recorded recently when they all met up at London Victoria Station on Monday, 5th July 2021. It was the first time they have been face to face since October 2020, and all other recording has been done over Skype since then. Anyway, have a listen.
Hi listeners, we're in London, Victoria, and I'm with Nick and Ali in person for the first time since...
Last October.
Last October,
I think it was
when we met here.
We met exactly the same here last October. Oh, it's great, because I haven't seen you since, have I?
No, you did come to my house before that, I think.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I think I was due to come back to Salisbury, and then second lockdown happened. So, or it was pending, and I wasn't sure that. But
it's good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you. You're up here for your wedding anniversary.
Yeah, 18 years. In fact, you were there 18 years ago.
I certainly was. Being best man, I better be.
I think at this time, well, it's 3 o'clock now, so we'd had the main ceremony by then.
No, because
you're only 45 minutes late.
Yeah, but what time were we booked to start?
Was it half 2? I think it was
3 o'clock.
Was it 3? I thought it was 2.
But we didn't get married until about 4.
No, half 2. Because I was still, because Paul and the boys were, I'd washed and I'd had my 1 o'clock.
I know
that was about an hour and a half before.
The St John's singers were meant to be rehearsing from 4 o'clock, and they couldn't have the church because we were still fasting. And there was like people opening the church door saying, "Have you gone yet? Have you gone
And
yet?"
there was you, and there was Harry, and
my brother,
Brett, and
Callum,
and Dex.
I had more guests at that thing than you did. They were all your guests, but I had a lot of people who kind of best man duties were great.
But no, it was lovely. But no, you wanted to come up to London, and I thought, oh yes, please,
but we had things are a little bit different with making sure that steps like to a minimum.
Yes.
Distance between B&B and train minimum. I did get to the top of a double-decker bus. It might be my last ever time, but at least I did it.
I avoid there. I was forced up one the other day, and the amount of people that sit in the what should I call it? The seats that are made for people like you and I. The amount of people who sit in them, and I can't be bothered to wear my tabard thing that says I need a seat.
Well, the thing is, I've got a disabled rail card. So the idea is when I book my disabled rail card, basically bing, bing, bing to whoever the guard is to say you've got a disabled passenger. And because they sort of look for the disabled passenger, and I don't turn up with, the whole of B&Q basically bolting around me for easy access. They go, oh well, obviously didn't turn up. But I can't stand. I might be able to stand on the tube, basically struck between 2 bars. But I certainly couldn't stand on a regular train. I've got to wait till the train actually stops before I can get out.
We're staying in a nice hotel in Earls Court. Earls Court, I used to meet up with Andrew Candish, who's one of our old RBS and filming people. When he had a church up here, and he was I used to go and visit him from time to time. We had a big blowout day yesterday. Then we went to up the sort of central London bit, and went to Fop. which is about the only decent DVD shop we can
And records or
we actually, because I kind of got it into my head that now is the time to get the Blu-ray, because you very kindly gave us a Blu-ray player about over a year ago, I think now. It was a long time.
I think it was a little while ago.
It was a little while ago. But I'm
Maybe a few,
trying to choose the one that was kind of... The Doctor Who, of course, have been the ones that appealed the most. But there's... I'm part of a site which is kind of I've just got this, I've just got that and everything. Oh yes, I'd like to. But I didn't know how available they were in the shops. It would seem they aren't at all. There's two standardised ones, season 12 and 19. And I thought, oh yes, I fancied 12 the most. So so that's that was, and we bought some films. Bought Marathon Man on Blu-ray and Time After Time, which is one of my favourite films.
I've noticed I've got about 3 films I've got to bring to lend to you. I watched one with Tilda Swinton, a thriller from 2001, which was a kind of quite good era for those sorts of films, which I quite enjoyed. So I've added that to the pile as well.
Also, I mean, we've got quite a few piles to get back to each other, I think. We've got the other. That brings me on to the other one, which we've been waiting ages and ages for even to come out on DVD as a proper, decent extras release, and that's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which has been out on sort of vanilla release for ages. And now it's presumably because it's the 50th anniversary of the film. They finally released it with a commentary and a documentary. But I'm just wondering, because it's a commentary with the kids, who are now, of course, in their 60s. But one of the things I'm worried about, I don't know whether it was recorded before or after Denise Nicholson died. Hopefully before, because it would sort of almost make me angry that they've taken so long to bring it out, and she's actually died.
Yeah, sometimes they just, it's on Blu-ray, but they've just copied if they've had previous commentaries from DVD versions, you end up getting those again they use those as the...
Only trouble with Wonka is they've never released one with commentary before. So, but no, I hope it's got... She was always my favourite Wonka little kid.
She was from Dark Shadows as well.
Yeah, exactly. She had quite a prolific...
I've seen a documentary about it, which she's in.
It was terribly sad the way she went. But no, we just really feel we've got finally got a decent release of that. I bought they've recently released the Target novelisation versions of the remaining Doctor Who's, so that was I got those, and a nice magazine about the chronicles of.
I've been treating myself to things on eBay, like more vinyl and stuff. I've also got loads of vinyl that I bought last year, which I've still not taken out of the. What I did is buy quite a lot, and now if I ever want a treat, I've got about 20 different things to open.
Yeah.
And I'd rather than open them all at once. And I couldn't have played. I've got sort of ready-made treats, but I bought Gloria, the song Gloria by Laura Branigan, and another song by her that was a single but wasn't a hit in the UK. And I've also bought something for when we record together for the 548 live streaming event, if all that goes to plan. I bought X number, I don't know, I haven't opened them yet, and I may not, because they might travel better to you if I'm bringing live copies of about half a dozen 1978 look-ins for us to open and discuss as one of the things we can discuss.
I have a few live ones myself, but I don't think I've got many of those. I've got loads of virtual ones and a few live ones. But
yeah, well, we got some on the bookcase, haven't we?
It may be more like 8 or 9. It was only 12 quid. It was only about £1 each, so I thought, oh well, I'll bring them, and if I open up the thing and they just lots of like confetti come out, I'll know I've been scammed. But
I know you
something in there.
Ali bought when we went to Forbidden Planet, and we bought a huge, great big book about the 60s Batman, which was gorgeous, wasn't it? Even had a utility belt on the front.
Yeah, you had to open the utility belt to get into the book.
And a cartoon book illustrations by Jessica Martin.
Jessica Martin's autobiography. She did it as a graphic novel, so that she could sort of have like a comic book idea. But it's actually drawn by her. The storyboard of her life.
And today's been our anniversary. We've been at Upton Park. We've had a trip on the double-decker bus. Haven't we?
Yeah. Sorry. There's a pigeon there who's lost his foot. He's a stumpy. He's a disabled pigeon.
Has he got a blue badge? But no, yeah, that was good. And here we are.
Oh, and you got a book that was signed by somebody who was dead when it came out.
I went to the Doctor Who shop in Upton Park this morning, and apart from a couple of Target novelisations, the Robots of Death and Time Monster, I got a Request for Peddler, which was written by Michael Seeley, who wrote the most excellent Doomwatch book. And I've been meaning to get it for some time. I think it's sort of borderline out of print. And as we were leaving, one of the people, I went to see who.
It was Bird.
Sort of said, "Oh, you know, I believe it's signed by Kit Peddler." I thought, Kit Peddler died 40 years ago,
and the book's been out not that long.
Only about 4 at the outside. So I see a problem now. But it was a squiggle, like.
Yeah.
So I but no, I'd see. It's good to see all that. So yeah, thoroughly indulgent and very enjoyable, and works a bit. Well, but for both of us is a bit forced at the moment. There's various new people to train up, people leaving, people joining, offices to be decanted. So it's a bit. But no, it's that's so far. And then tomorrow we're sort of cruising around the Covent Garden sort of the area. And then we're heading on back.
We're all going to say.
Well, yes. We went to Westminster Abbey. Westminster Abbey had a lovely organ recital, which we kind of sat down and listened to and chilled out. That was good. It was a good way to end the day.
Sounds like a good trip.
Very enjoyable. Different from last time, but it's been interesting to see. Last time I think it was probably more subdued.
Yeah, but also this time, I mean, it's London from a flat perspective, because before we could just hop on, hop off.
Yeah.
Now we're actually having to think we're going to hop on, hop off, and which is going to be the one that I can basically get off the underground from, and actually get from A to B without sort of needing medical attention.
But no, it's because we actually stayed at the Strand, because it was London was so dead. We got sort of fairly cheap prices at fairly central places. But no, and the weather wasn't. The weather's been variable, but it was nice yesterday because the rain that there was actually quite refreshing. And it didn't last very long, so that's good. I've also elsewhere I've been appearing in a small film. It calls itself feature film, but I don't think it'll last more than 45 minutes. But A Riddle in the Sand. It's written by Alistair Faulkner, who I know from my acting, and I play a Savile Row Tailor in it. It was done. It's like Richard, who was in a lot of my early films, actually built the set. And it was just like being in a TV studio. It's really good, and it should be coming out. They reckon it's going to come out in September, and he's hoping to put it in for competition and things like that. I hope to do some more with him. It's nice to be back in filming again. That was good. What else? Trying really now, kind of things are getting slowly back to normal. Trying to factor in as many friends and meetups, starting with yourself.
Yes.
And I think you might be the first person to come and see us from outside of Salisbury.
Probably only.
Have you been busy?
Just under 3 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I'm sure we'll do plenty more talking on that occasion. So I'll save. I'll try and get this on a imminent episode. Some of our episodes from 2020 still haven't been released. We did so many, but this will be pushed to the front.
Goodness, more to come, more gems to come.
I gotta go now. Bye. Gotta go. Bye.
This show is part of the Pride 48 network. Find more shows over at pride48.com.
Oh dear, what's going on now? Oh, it's the Shy Life podcast.
Let's go.
I have a voice. I have a voice.
You have a voice.
You have a voice. We have a voice.
We have a voice.
Unique voices in podcasting.
UnivazPods.net.
But the big thing for me, from my point of view, and it's culminating in something this afternoon, and that's I've novelised a whole six-parter of Life After that I wrote nearly 30 years ago. And of course, because I have Wednesdays off now, and I didn't before, and of course that combined with COVID has meant that I've done the whole thing in about 7 months, and I've actually, in terms of editing it, I'm a whole month ahead of schedule because I was allowing until Christmas, and even then I thought that was a bit of a tall order, but it's gone much more smoothly than I expected. So absolutely delighted with that. Don't know what the next writing project holds. I'm kind of seeing what comes along. I'd like to. Wouldn't mind going back to scripts again. I enjoyed our time on the story, but I say my friend Richard Clark makes films, and obviously we've had a quiet year because of COVID. But I would very much like to get him involved in. Well, I'd like to be involved in the acting as well, but I'd like even more so. I'd like to be involved in the scripts. So, yeah, I'm hoping that 2021 will be a little bit more fruitful. In that respect, but I definitely.
I think for me, what's frustrating is the fact that I can travel 2 hours or an hour and a half into work and spend lots of time with people I don't know what they're doing back home, and yet I can't go and see my own family. Surely if I can sit and work with people, then I could go and sit in my parents' living room. I don't understand.
Well, I mean, if that was the case with me, that would be very frustrating because I like my colleagues, but I have very little in common with them. They don't know half of my life because I don't really think they'd understand, not fully. So there has been some friends we've seen periodically over, when lockdown was eased, and. You still see them from time to time, very much one at a time, and the pub is very. We go to the pub, but it's very partitioned.
But I couldn't even have you. I couldn't even have you over here if you wanted to come at the moment. But and yet, not even if you sat here in the living room, and we both sat here with masks, I couldn't have you here. And yet in the summer you were here, and we were both a bit distant, but it wasn't.
It was all right, actually. Wasn't it? We got some things sorted. I mean, I don't quite know where we stand. Obviously, because you have to be very careful. But I was hoping to go and see some friends just overnight for New Year. But I don't know quite even if they're running trains during Christmas.
I guess it depends where. It's what tier Salisbury is compared to what tier your friends. I mean, that's the reason I can't come to Salisbury at the moment, because I can't go into your house, or I can't go into my parents' house, or you can't. I was going to be staying in a place in Salisbury, but I couldn't even have you in there, and it's not the time of year to be standing out in the close in the cold at a distance. So I had to say no this time. But anyway.
I hope that Cheyenne bathed today. That's all I can say.
Boy, I hope Nick Goodman is on this episode.
449. 449.
Regrets, I've had of grits, I've had of grits, regrets, I've had of grits, I've had of grits, regrets, I've had of grits, I've had of grits, regrets, I've had of grits.
This is just the weirdest thing I've ever heard.